What if I tell you that being a great designer is not enough to be a great freelancer? Well, a few days back, I conducted a poll on Twitter where I asked people of their opinion. What according to them was a better strategy for career, working for a company or working as a freelance designer? Around 71% of the people said that they felt working for a company was a better strategy. I highly recommend you go check out the comments on this thread. Some really experienced people have shared their opinion. I will leave the link of the tweet in the description. Now, there was a clear majority in the poll, but in spite of that, I chose to make this video because this was one of the most frequently requested topics, be it on my DM, YouTube comments, or live question and answer session. So here I am with this video where I'll help you answer the question for yourself: should you be a freelancer? Stay tuned. Hey you awesome people, welcome to my channel. This is Sapta, and if you are here for the first time, this is the place where I help designers build and scale their career with tips, suggestions and tutorials. So if you're into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Today, I'm going to speak about freelance design. A freelance designer is an individual who offers design services to a client for a predefined scope. It's like this: if a client has a project or a work that needs to be designed, they consult a freelancer and both the parties sit together and decide the scope, the money, the designer delivers the work, get paid. That's it. No other commitment. Now you might be thinking that's exactly what happens in any design agency or service-based companies as well. How is it different? Why would a client go to an individual freelance designer and not an established agency? Well, there are two major reasons for this. Number one, the price. Freelancers are usually relatively cheaper compared to agencies, and a big and famous agency can get really expensive. Number two, freshness in the work. A freelancer is most likely to have a more fresh approach compared to an agency. For example, if the client needs to design, say, a digital wallet, an agency might have designed many such wallets in the past, and no matter how hard they try, when they work on it, it may end up being similar to what they had done in the past for other clients. Like, it's kind of natural because you're so used to doing something. In short, there may not be anything unique about it. Whereas a freelancer who might not have worked on so many different types of the same app is more likely to have a fresher approach and a different perspective of the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong here. It's not that agencies cannot come up with unique stuff. Of course they can, but this is how a client might think. And there can also be reasons why a client might choose to go for an agency and not a freelancer, because agencies are considered safer or more reliable options because it's a group of people, it's an established company, whereas a freelancer is just a single individual. But if a freelancer establishes that kind of trust over time with bigger brands and companies in their portfolio, companies where they had worked for before, can have similar level of confidence in the minds of the client as well. Freelancers can be as reliable as an agency or a service-based company. Now, you again might be thinking, so freelancer is essentially like design agencies, just that it's run by one single individual. Why is that everyone is raving about it? What excites most of us about freelance is the prefix free in it. We all like free stuff, don't we? Free gift, free delivery, bond, free freedom, any kind of freedom essentially. So, before we begin, let's try and understand what kind of freedom does a freelancer enjoy? The free in freelancer basically means that you are not attached to any particular company. You are not employed with any particular company. That's about it. Nothing more, nothing less. A typical company has many functions or departments that support each other. Tech, design, operations, HR, finance, to name a few, and many more. The policies and rules made by each of these functions is expected to be followed by the others whether you like it or not. That's how a company functions. As a freelancer, you get to decide all these policies and rules because you are the only one. You get to decide when you want to work and when you don't want to work. Every day, every night, 1 week, every month, so on and so forth. You have the total control because you're not dependent on anyone else. You can work from anywhere in the world as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection. You can also set your own price and you don't have to wait for the yearly appraisals to increase your rates. For example, you can work on a project for rupees X and the very next project you can work for an amount which is 2x or 3x because things are in your control. You can also take the advantage of currency exchange rates, meaning you can sit here in India and earn in dollars, pounds and euros. You also get to select your work. Just because a client has approached you with a certain work doesn't mean that you'll have to do it. You can evaluate the client and the project and decide if you would want to work for it or simply say no. But again, you need to establish yourself as a great and reliable freelancer before you get to exercise some of these choices. Like they say, beggars cannot be choosers, right? So if you are a beginner in this field, then maybe you won't have some of these flexibilities, but overall, it's a great place to be in. So to sum up, being a freelancer, it's almost like running your own company where you are the sole employee. You are the designer, you are the project manager, you are the HR, finance, and everything else possible. Sounds like the life you always wanted, isn't it? Well, there are some caveats associated with it. Let's talk about something everyone is familiar with. Maybe a bowl of rice and vegetables. Now, you may order this from a restaurant or you may choose to prepare it yourself at home. And even if you're cooking it yourself at home, you aren't really doing everything that is involved in this process. Someone else is sowing the seeds of rice and vegetables, watering, nurturing, and harvesting them. Someone else is processing them and bringing it in the form that is usable by you. Someone else is sourcing all of them and making them available to you. And finally, someone else is probably delivering them to your doorstep. You are merely mixing all the ingredients at the end in your kitchen. Now imagine if you had to do all these things yourself. Sure, you'll have a lot of control and options, but it's not going to be very easy, right? You may not have the time and the expertise to do all these things in the right way. And if you screw up any of the steps, it's going to adversely affect the final output, which is the food in this case. It's similar in freelance. As a freelance designer, you will have to wear multiple hats and do the work of many other departments, which is way different from your core expertise, that is design. Many of you may like it, doing all these extra things, but many of you may hate it as well. But as a freelancer, it is very important that you understand the basics of branding, marketing, finance, operations, and sales. I don't intend to scare you here. You don't need to have an MBA to be able to do freelance. You just need to have a basic understanding of all these things, and it's highly possible that you already know many of these things as a part of your street smart lifestyle. And how do you know whether you know them or not? By testing yourself. One of the biggest challenges every freelancer faces, especially in their initial days, is finding clients. In this regard, establishing a personal brand is absolutely important. To test if you're good at it, set a page for yourself. The platform can be anything: Dribbble, Instagram, Behance, Medium. Just post your work out there, your good work, consistently. Try and scale this as much as possible. Try and gather as much as love, attention, and following that you can. If you manage to do it successfully, it is possible that you'll also do a good job when you start freelancing. It indicates that your branding and marketing skills are decent enough, which will in turn help your clients discover you, and thus you can find freelance work. Freelance often means that your income can be unpredictable or inconsistent, meaning there can be times when you're working on multiple projects, whereas there can also be times when you do not have any projects with you. So you should be mentally and financially prepared for it. To test your finances, you can do some basic math in your head. What if the main source of your income stops from today? Will you be able to sustain your lifestyle for the next 6 months at least with your savings and other sources of income? If the answer is yes, then maybe you're already conscious about your personal finance and maybe you're prepared to lead a life of a freelancer. If not, you need to start working towards it. As a freelancer, you need to be a great communicator and a negotiator as well. Well, I believe everyone should be a great communicator and negotiator, but it becomes extremely important and even more important in case of freelance. To test yourself, try and get on a discussion with your friend or anyone around you. The topic can be anything. It can be something as silly as your friend says apples are great and you try and convince him or her that oranges are better. Well, it's not about selecting the fruit, but if you indeed manage to convince your friend into believing that oranges are better, even though the person had initially felt it was apples, it means that you are good at convincing. And it's possible that when you start freelancing, you would also do a good job convincing and negotiating with your client, be it a design decision or finding the right price for your work. And for you to convince someone about orange, you'd also need to have all the information and details and knowledge about orange, right? Because when you convince someone, you essentially put down facts, which makes it evident that, okay, oranges are better. And how do you find all this information? So the same thing can also indicate that you are good at digging into different things and finding out information and details, maybe from the internet or maybe from books, encyclopedias, or from different people around you. Research essentially. And last but not the least, you need to be a multi-skilled designer, which means you'll have to do your research, build your flows, make visuals, illustrations, animations, copywriting, and everything else that is needed for you to complete the process of design. Because again, you are the lone wolf, there's no one else to support you with all these tasks. In short, you need to be a full stack designer who knows almost everything. It's because when a client comes to you, they expect you to do all these things because they're outsourcing the design bit from you, and you need to know or have some idea about every aspect of design that you can think of. As you see, there's a lot of flexibility and benefits being a freelancer, but on the flip side, it lacks on the stability and the security, especially if you're starting out. A full-time job in a company may not give you all these flexibilities, but it's still a safer thing to do. Now, here's what many people do. They safely found a middle ground, which is the best of both the worlds, where they get the benefit of both the sides. They remain employed with some company which ensures that they have the stability and the constant flow of money every month, and along with that, they also take up part-time freelance gigs as a secondary option of experience and income. That's indeed smart. Now, if you want to do this, remember that when you are employed with a company, as per your employment agreement, you are not legally allowed to be employed with anyone else or any company or individual. So make sure that even if you're taking up some freelance gigs, that you are not officially employed to your freelance clients and you engage only as a consultant or a help maybe. That should keep you legally clean. But again, you need to manage your time accordingly. The freelance for you is a secondary thing and it should remain that way, and it should no way affect the productivity in your primary job with the company. If you take care of all these things, you may go ahead and try freelancing along with your full-time job, which should give you a good amount of flavor about how freelance actually is, so that later in your life, when you're more experienced and you're more prepared, you can think of taking up freelance full-time. After all this, I hope you are in a better position to understand if you are prepared, if you're already prepared to be a freelancer, or if you need a little more time to get sailing into the world of freelance. If you like this video, like and share this in your network, and I'll be really happy if you subscribe to my channel as well. This is Sapta. See you guys in the next one.